All right, so are you ready to dive into a case that I think is really going to leave you thinking?
Oh, yeah.
This is the story of Anthony Garcia, a doctor who went from healing to hurting, ending up convicted of 4 murders.
Wow.
We've got excerpts from a Wikipedia article all about him, and
Okay.
trust me, you're not ready for the twists and turns this one takes.
I'm intrigued already.
So
I'm done.
it's really a story that makes you wonder about just human nature in general.
It really is one of those cases that makes you question, like, the duality of human nature.
Yeah.
How can someone dedicated to saving lives end up taking them,
Yeah.
in such a brutal way?
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to explore. Garcia was convicted of 2 separate double murders in Omaha, Nebraska,
Okay.
one in 2008 and then another in 2013.
Wow. Wow.
So to understand how this all happened, let's go back to the beginning,
Okay, let's do it.
to his early life and medical career.
Yeah, I think Garcia's early life and medical career are actually crucial to understanding,
Right.
his downward spiral.
So he was born in Los Angeles in 1973,
Mm-hmm.
seemed to be on a promising path, earning his medical degree from the University of Utah in 1999.
Right.
But that's when the cracks start to appear.
That's when things start to kind of go a little haywire.
His residency journey was anything but smooth.
Yeah.
He was forced to resign from his first residency program in New York
Oh, wow.
due to what they called unprofessional and inappropriate conduct. Not exactly a glowing recommendation
Not at all.
for a future doctor, right?
No. And this pattern of troubling behavior continued when he moved to the Creighton University Pathology Residency Program in Omaha.
Okay.
There were multiple reports of him being disruptive, confrontational, and lacking initiative.
Really?
Yeah. One of his professors even labeled him
Oh my gosh.
the worst resident she'd encountered in her 40 years of teaching.
Wow.
That's gotta sting to be the worst
Yeah.
out of 4 decades worth of students.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what was going on beneath the surface. Was it just a bad attitude, or was there something darker brewing?
Yeah, there were definitely some incidents that went beyond a typical bad attitude.
Oh, really?
Like, for example, there was a time when he deliberately placed an autopsied body face down, distorting the face.
Oh, my.
Yeah, this wasn't just disrespectful. It suggested a real lack of empathy and a possible fascination with causing harm.
That's chilling.
Yeah.
And it gets worse.
Oh, no.
He was involved in a prank call incident where he deliberately sabotaged a fellow resident's crucial exam by falsely claiming the pathology department needed him immediately.
Oh, my gosh. So he was trying to get this resident in trouble.
Pretty much, yeah. And Garcia seemed to believe this resident was using exams to avoid work, so he plotted this scheme with another resident to get back at him.
Wow. So there was some premeditation here.
Yeah,
Yeah. These incidents, coupled with his overall poor performance and disruptive behavior, eventually led to his termination from Creighton.
So after getting kicked out of 2 residency programs, you'd think he'd be out of options.
Right.
But somehow he managed to land another residency at the University of Illinois, Chicago.
He did.
Yeah, though predictably, that didn't last long either.
Figures.
He ended up leaving, citing health issues like migraines and depression.
Interesting. It does make you wonder if those health issues were genuine or a convenient excuse to cover up his inability to succeed in these programs.
Yeah.
Either way, he was carrying a lot of baggage from these failed residencies, both literally and figuratively.
Exactly.
Wow.
He moved back to California but couldn't stay away from medicine for long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in 2007, he landed a job at the LSU Health Sciences Center in Louisiana.
Okay.
But as we'll soon see, his past had a way of catching up with him.
Oh, boy. And that catch-up had devastating consequences.
Yeah, the State Board of Medical Examiners discovered that Garcia had failed to disclose his dismissals from Creighton and UIC when applying for his medical license in Louisiana.
Oh, so he was not being completely honest.
Yeah. This raised huge red flags, and his supervisor, who already had concerns about his work, ended up firing him in early 2008.
Wow.
And here's where things take a truly dark turn.
Oh, no.
Just 2 weeks after losing his job at LSU, 2 shocking murders occurred in Omaha, marking the beginning of a horrific chapter in this story.
Okay, so this is where it gets really serious.
Yeah.
On March 13, 2008, 11-year-old Thomas Hunter, the son of Dr. William Hunter, remember him from Creighton, and the family housekeeper, 57-year-old Shirley Sherman, were found stabbed to death in the Hunter home.
It was a brutal scene. Both victims were stabbed repeatedly with knives taken from the Hunter family's kitchen.
Oh, my gosh.
The level of violence, especially against a child, was deeply unsettling.
It's hard to even imagine. The Omaha police immediately launched an investigation.
Yeah.
But despite their best efforts, the case eventually went cold. leaving the Hunter family and the community in a state of agonizing uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't stay cold forever.
Right.
It never does.
No.
It's almost as if the 2008 murders just cast this long shadow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was only to be followed by, even more darkness in 2013.
Right.
This is where the pieces of the puzzle really start falling into place,
Mm-hmm.
and a clear pattern of revenge begins to emerge.
It's like he was just harboring all this resentment, like
Right.
biding his time until he could unleash it on these people he felt had wronged him.
Exactly.
And on May 14th, 2013, that pent-up rage just erupted
It did.
with terrifying force.
So that day, movers arrived at the home of Dr. Roger Brumback and his wife, Mary,
Okay.
only to discover a horrifying scene.
Oh, no.
Dr. Brumback, another former colleague of Garcia's from Creighton,
Wow.
had been shot multiple times and stabbed.
Oh, my God.
His wife, Mary, was also brutally stabbed to death.
It's like the 2008 murders all over again.
The parallels to the 2008 murders were chillingly clear.
Yeah, the brutality, the use of knives from their own kitchen, it all pointed towards this really disturbing connection.
Right, and the fact that both Dr. Brumback and Dr. Hunter had worked with Garcia at Creighton,
Right.
made him an immediate suspect.
Of course.
So the investigators weren't just dealing with two horrific crime scenes.
Right.
They were facing a potential serial killer,
Yeah.
driven by a very personal vendetta.
And then there was an attempted break-in at the home of yet another former Creighton colleague,
Oh, wow.
Dr. Chanda Butra.
So this is the professor who had called Garcia the worst resident she had ever seen.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It seems like he was determined to target anyone he perceived as having played a role in his downfall at Creighton.
It does seem that way.
Luckily, Dr. Butra and her husband weren't home at the time, and the intruder was scared off by their alarm system.
Okay.
But this incident provided investigators with a crucial piece of the puzzle:
What was that?
DNA evidence.
Oh, wow.
The DNA found at Dr. Butra's home matched Garcia's, placing him directly at the scene
Okay.
and solidifying their suspicions that he was behind the murders.
Right. And this break-in also helped Detective Derek Moyes, who had worked on the 2008 Hunter Sherman case, make a vital connection.
Okay.
He realized that Garcia's dismissal from Creighton had severely limited his ability to obtain medical licenses and find work in other states.
Wow.
It suddenly became clear that revenge was the driving force behind these horrific acts.
It's like everything clicked into place.
It did.
Garcia's motive was finally coming into focus, and the evidence against him was mounting.
Yeah.
Investigators discovered that Garcia had purchased a firearm in Indiana just before the Brumback murders,
Okay.
a firearm that matched the magazine found at the crack scene.
Oh, wow.
They also uncovered credit card records and cell phone data that placed him in the vicinity of the Brumback home on the day of the murders.
So it was a textbook case of modern technology
Yeah.
aiding criminal investigation.
Yeah, his digital footprint, combined with the DNA evidence,
What?
created a really strong case against him.
Yeah, they had him.
So on July 15th, 2013, Garcia was arrested during a routine traffic stop in Illinois.
Okay.
But this was no ordinary DUI arrest.
What happened?
When officers searched his car, they found a .45 caliber handgun, ammunition,
Okay.
an LSU lab coat, and a stethoscope.
Oh, wow. That's almost symbolic, isn't it?
It really is.
The tools of healing alongside the tools of destruction.
Yeah.
A chilling reminder of the dual nature of this man.
Yeah. With this mountain of evidence, Nebraska authorities charged Garcia with 4 counts of first-degree murder and use of a handgun.
Wow.
The stage was set for a high-profile trial that
Yeah.
would grip the nation and expose the darkest corners of Garcia's mind.
Yeah, and the trial itself was full
Huh.
of unexpected twists and turns.
Right. But as we'll see in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
the trial itself was full of unexpected twists and turns.
Okay, so we got a lot more to uncover.
Yeah.
It was a legal battle that brought together two very different legal styles.
Yeah.
Clashing personalities.
Right.
And raised complex questions about the nature of justice and the death penalty.
We'll get into all of that.
Okay, looking forward to it.
We've been following this trail of Anthony Garcia,
Yeah.
from promising medical student to vengeful killer.
It's been quite a journey.
But the story doesn't end with his arrest.
No, not at all.
What comes next is really a complex legal battle.
Right.
One that really grapples with the weight of the death penalty.
And the timing of this case, couldn't have been more
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Just a month after Garcia's conviction in October 2016, Nebraska was in the midst of this heated debate
Oh, really?
about the death penalty.
Wow.
Right. In November 2016, Nebraska voters actually decided to retain the death penalty through a referendum.
Okay.
So with that decision made, a three-judge panel was tasked with determining Garcia's fate.
It's a stark reminder that, even individual cases like this one
Right.
can become intertwined with larger societal discussions about justice and punishment.
Absolutely. And after months of deliberation, the panel handed down their decision in September 2018.
And what was their decision?
Anthony Garcia was sentenced to death.
Wow. A sentence that reflected the gravity of his crimes.
Yeah.
The brutal taking of four innocent lives. But, death penalty cases
Right.
rarely end with a sentencing. Appeals are almost always a part of the process.
Right. And Garcia's case was no exception.
Of course.
He remained on death row at the Tecumseh State Correctional Institution, his fate hanging in the balance as his appeals slowly made their way through the legal system.
It's a long process.
Yeah.
It can take years.
Absolutely. And in 2022, Garcia's defense team launched a new appeal.
Okay.
Arguing that he had received inadequate representation during his trial.
So they were saying that his previous lawyers had been ineffective.
Right, preventing him from getting a fair trial.
This argument is pretty common in death penalty appeals.
Yeah.
But in Garcia's case, it adds a new layer of complexity,
Yeah.
considering his history of clashing with his lawyers.
Right. Remember, he even represented himself for a period during the initial proceedings.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. And Garcia himself claimed he was dealing with mental health issues during the trial.
Yeah.
Which further complicated his defense.
Right. He argued that his mental state had hindered his ability to communicate effectively with his attorneys.
Okay.
And fully participate in his own defense.
It's a difficult claim to assess years later.
Yeah, it really is.
But it does raise questions about how our legal system handles cases involving defendants who may be struggling with their mental health.
Right.
Especially in cases where the death penalty is a possibility.
Absolutely. And as we sit here in 2025, Anthony Garcia remains on death row. His legal battles are still ongoing.
So this story isn't over yet.
Not at all. It's a reminder that this story, for him, for the victims' families, and for the community impacted by these horrific acts, is far from over.
It's a sobering reminder
Yeah.
of the long-lasting impact of violent crimes
Yeah.
and the complex web of legal and ethical issues surrounding the death penalty. As we wrap up this deep dive, what stands out most to you about this case?
I think what I find most haunting is the stark contrast between Garcia's chosen profession, one dedicated to healing, and the path of destruction he ultimately chose.
Yeah.
It begs the question, could these tragedies have been prevented?
It really does.
Were there missed warning signs along the way?
It's a question that lingers, isn't it?
It really is.
We see the red flags, the troubling behaviors throughout his medical training, but it's easy to connect the dots in retrospect.
Yeah.
Maybe this case serves as a reminder
Right.
about the importance of recognizing and addressing concerning behavior before it escalates into something far more dangerous.
It's a powerful thought. I think that's a good place to leave it for our listeners. We've covered a lot of ground today, from Garcia's early life and career to the details of the murders, his arrest, trial, conviction, and his current status on death row. It's a story that leaves us with more questions than answers.
But that's often the nature of a true deep dive.
Right.
We're not just skimming the surface.
No.
We're delving into the complexities, the nuances, the gray areas that make these stories so compelling and thought-provoking.
So as we conclude our exploration of Anthony Garcia's life and crimes, we leave you with this. What responsibility do we have as individuals and as a society to recognize and address the warning signs of potential violence?
It's a good question.
It's a question worth pondering as we all strive to create a safer and more just world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep exploring.